Hello everyone, and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is, If You Can Read This, There's Still Hope, by T. Mansholt, originally posted on Reddit. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like, and if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street, and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. Now, before I delve deeper into what is happening to me, let me beg you, if you can help me in any way, please do contact me. If there's anything you can do, please message me. Also, please excuse my English. It is not my native tongue. First of all, before I start, I do not do any drugs. I don't even drink alcohol. I'm 33 years old, live in a very small town in northern Germany. Why I'm asking for help might sound very weird, but it is how it is. I keep waking up. Now, usually that's what everybody does every morning, but I find myself waking up during scenarios when I have not even gone to bed. Suddenly, everything turns dark. I flinch and awake in my bed. This has happened to me several times recently. I like to analyze stuff a lot, but I just cannot wrap my head around it. I could be walking down the street after work, and suddenly I'm in my bed again, as if it was all a dream. It could happen again at any time. Just before waking up, I feel a weird pulling sensation in my chest, and horrifying events start happening around me. But let me start with the beginning, and the first time this happened to me, or at least the first time I remember. I work an office job for a local politician. Around 6 p.m. I pack my stuff, get into the car, and drive a few kilometers back to my town. Looking back, I have tried to remember every little detail that has happened on that day, but there is nothing to explain what happened to me. Not even the weather was weird, and it usually is rainy in these kind of stories. No, but maybe you can find some clues where I cannot. I am sure there is something I have missed. I usually start the day with loads of coffee and checking my emails. Then around 11, I get the mail, answering letters, fill out forms, do a few press handouts, that sort of stuff. At lunch break, I usually sit outside eating my sandwich, then get back to the computer for a few hours. There was not a lot of work to be done that day, however, and the only really weird thing, which is not really weird, was me bumping into my colleague spilling his water. So I went to the car shortly after 6 and drove off, past an unusually big crowd of people centered around some new shop, and took my daily land road back home. My phone rang, but I only checked who called when I was home, since I had a crash before looking at my phone during driving. Turns out it was an unknown number, and that whoever it was had left a message. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, listening to it. It was a voice, sounded male, simply screaming into my inbox. The air went cold, and I woke up. It was weird, because I had already woken up that morning in the usual way, living my daily normal life. I had woken up as if from a dream, around 10 times since, and it was always accompanied by something that scared the hell out of me. And I always felt like I had lived a normal day up to that point, with the difference that I grew more scared and more wary with every time. And it was always in random situations. I cannot live in peace, knowing that I might well wake up at any moment. Some horror lurking just around the corner. I cannot tell whether I'm really awake now. And when I finally wake for real, I would not be able to know if I really have. Maybe this is still this nightmarish loop, and no one will read this. But if there's any chance, let me know. The scream on my inbox was, however, by far not the worst thing that has happened. Let me tell you a few more incidents. Around the 3rd or 4th time, I was sitting on the train on a Saturday, traveling to the next big city to get my phone fixed. It seemed to not quite work after the mailbox incident. The weather was great. I distinctively remember the fantastic forms of the shattered white clouds and the mainly blue sky. For some reason, my apartment smelled of flowers in a really heavy way. As I got out at my shop after around an hour drive, I stepped onto the platform. I noticed I was the only one getting out here, which is not at all usual for this stop. Also, the platform was nearly empty. Remember, this was on a Saturday where the small town folk usually come here to shop. Anyway, I was on my way to the stairs leading down from the platform when a man who ran up the stairs, I thought he was going to be late for his train, shouted at me, screaming, "Now, I finally get you," in German, and suddenly brandishing a knife. I felt like I was paralyzed and woke up in my bed, filled with horror. I felt like I had seen this man before somewhere, but my memories are blurry. Note that these things do not always happen on the same day. My record for leading a normal life within all this lies at 5 days where nothing happened, and I could go to bed and, at least I think so, sleep like a normal person. But the scariest thing came a few days later, when I was on my way to work again. I had just woken up and had a shower and pretended like I had woken up for real this time. I thought that that was the only reasonable method. But a short time later, I threw these thoughts overboard in the face of the sheer horror I felt. So, I stopped at a gas station to fill up my car, and, which I noticed only in hindsight, it was completely silent. Where usually in spring, the air is full of noises, with cars on the distant highway, or birds and insects in the fields. I went inside to pay for the gas, and the cashier and another customer just stood there, staring at me. They did not say a word, did not even react to my questions, just stared. I thought it was happening again, and fled the shop, but did not wake up. Back in my car, I tried to pass it off as something that people sometimes do. Maybe I interrupted them exchanging secrets. But when I reached work, I did not pass a soul on my way. Albeit being a Monday morning, it had not changed. I entered my office room, and the whole staff, around 15 people, were gathered there, simply staring at me when I entered. No one reacted to my questions. The only thing they did, apart from following my every movement, was blink from time to time. I panicked and ran out. The initial thought of some sort of prank on the side of my colleagues forgotten, and headed back to the parking lot. Someone was sitting on the passenger seat of my car, and only the devil knows why I sat down on the driver's seat anyway. The man looked a bit like me, only more disheveled, and with something about his look completely awry and wrong. I still cannot put my finger on what it was, but there was something totally off about his face. Somehow I asked him where we should drive to, and cannot recall why. He laughed at me and said, "To the gates, my friend," in German again. Then he pulled out a knife, and the car was suddenly underwater. I cannot tell whether I bled out or drowned it first, but it was the single most disturbing event, or nightmare, that has ever happened to me. That was yesterday. I have not gone to bed last night. I am reaching the limits of what I can handle. I sit here at the kitchen table like an idiot with a knife, knowing full well it would not help me if something happened again. Or could there be a way?